Daniel Miller had just moved to a new town. His father got a new job, so the whole family shifted from Chicago to a small city in Ohio. For Daniel, everything felt strange: the streets, the people, even the college where he had to start his new semester. On his first day, Daniel walked into the classroom, carrying his backpack and trying to look confident. But inside, he was nervous. Moving to a new place meant starting from zero. No friends, no connections, just him. The classroom buzzed with laughter and chatter. Everyone seemed to know each other already. But then, Daniel's eyes caught someone different. At the back of the class sat a girl. Her name, he later learned, was Emily Parker. She was not talking to anyone. While others joked and passed notes, Emily kept her head down, writing something in her notebook. Daniel noticed a few things immediately. She didn't laugh. She didn't join the group. She wore simple clothes, nothing flashy. And the way she looked around like she was checking if someone was watching her felt unusual. When the teacher called out names, a few students whispered when Emily's name came. Some even smirked. Daniel didn't understand why. After class, while everyone left in groups, Emily packed her bag quickly and walked out alone. Daniel thought, she looks lonely, but why? The next day, he saw the same thing. Emily entered quietly, sat in the same seat, and didn't talk. She never raised her hand, never looked up, and never stayed long after class. But what really caught Daniel's attention was how others behaved around her. Some gave her strange looks. A few whispered as she passed by. It wasn't normal. It was like they all knew something about her, something he didn't. One afternoon in the cafeteria, Daniel overheard two girls talking. "She used to be in another school," one said. "Yeah," the other replied, lowering her voice. "Something bad happened there. That's why she moved here." "What happened?" "I don't know exactly. Some kind of scandal. But nobody talks to her now." Daniel leaned closer, curious, but the girls noticed and stopped talking. Later that week, Daniel was in the library, searching for a book. The place was almost empty. As he turned a corner, he froze. There was Emily, sitting at a table in the far corner. She wasn't reading. She was staring at her phone, tears rolling down her cheeks. Her hands shook as she scrolled, like she was seeing something painful. Daniel wanted to walk over and ask if she was okay, but he hesitated. He barely knew her. Would she even talk to him? Before he could decide, Emily quickly wiped her face, grabbed her bag, and rushed out of the library. She didn't notice Daniel had seen her. He stood there, staring at the empty chair. His heart felt heavy. What is she hiding? Why does she look so scared? That night, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about her. Lying on his bed, he replayed the scene in his mind: her tears, the way she clutched her phone, the whispers in the cafeteria. He felt two things at the same time, curiosity and concern. He wanted to know her story. But he also felt something deeper, an invisible pull toward her. Emily wasn't just another classmate. She was a mystery. The next day, Daniel made a decision. He would try to talk to her. When class ended, he walked over and said softly, "Hey, Emily, right? I'm Daniel. I just moved here." Emily looked at him with surprise, almost fear. For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she gave a small nod. "Hi." Her voice was low, almost like she was afraid to speak. "I'm still figuring this place out," Daniel continued, trying to sound casual. "Maybe you can tell me which cafeteria food is safe to eat." Emily gave the tiniest smile, but it disappeared quickly. "I don't really eat there," she said. Then she picked up her bag and walked away. Daniel sighed. It wasn't much, but at least she had spoken to him. Over the next few days, he tried again. Sometimes he held the door for her, sometimes he asked about homework. Slowly, very slowly, she started to respond. But even when she talked, her eyes always looked troubled. Like a shadow was following her. Daniel noticed something else too: she never posted online. While other students shared pictures, stories, and memes, Emily stayed invisible. No profile, no updates, nothing. It was strange for someone their age. One evening, Daniel sat at his desk, bored, scrolling through the internet. Out of curiosity, he typed Emily Parker into the search bar. At first, nothing unusual came up. But then, buried in old posts, he found a photo. It was her. The same Emily. But in that photo, she was smiling brightly, standing with a group of friends. The caption was from 3 years ago. Daniel scrolled down to the comments and his stomach tightened. The comments weren't kind. They were cruel. People called her names, accused her of things he didn't understand. Some said she was a liar. Others said she ruined people's lives. Daniel leaned back, shocked. Was this the reason she changed schools? Was this why she looked so afraid all the time? As he stared at her old photo, one thought filled his mind. They hid the truth about her, but why? And in that moment, Daniel knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to stop until he found out. The next morning, Daniel walked into class, but his mind was still stuck on what he had discovered the night before. The photo, the cruel comments, the mystery around Emily, it all played over and over in his head. When he saw her sitting quietly in her usual spot, he wondered, how can someone smile so beautifully in an old picture but now look so broken? Daniel decided to try again. He couldn't just ignore her anymore. After class, he walked up to her desk. "Hey, Emily," he said, trying to sound friendly. "You're really good at taking notes. I was wondering if I could borrow them. I missed a few points today." Emily looked up, confused, like she wasn't used to someone asking her for help. Then, slowly, she slid her notebook toward him. "Here," she whispered. "Thanks," Daniel smiled. "You saved me." For the first time, he saw her face soften. She almost smiled, but then quickly packed her bag and left. Over the next few days, Daniel kept trying. He asked small questions about assignments, about teachers, about the library. Emily always answered, but her words were short, and her eyes never stayed on his for long. Still, Daniel didn't give up. He could tell she wasn't rude, she was just scared. One afternoon, when it started raining suddenly, students rushed to the cafeteria. Daniel saw Emily sitting alone at a corner table, staring out the window. He walked over and asked, "Mind if I sit here?" Emily hesitated for a second, then nodded. They sat in silence for a while, watching the rain. Finally, Daniel said, "You know, it feels weird being new here. Everyone already knows each other. I feel like an outsider." Emily's eyes flicked toward him. "You'll fit in. You seem normal." "Normal?" Daniel laughed. "That's the nicest thing anyone has said to me this week." To his surprise, Emily gave a tiny laugh too. It was quick, but real. For the first time, Daniel felt like he was breaking through the wall she had built around herself. But even with these small moments, Daniel couldn't forget what he had seen online. The cruel words under her photo haunted him. He wanted to ask her about it, but he knew if he pushed too fast, she might shut down completely. That night, Daniel sat at his desk again, staring at the old photo on his laptop. He zoomed in on her face, the bright smile, the confident eyes. She looked so different back then. "What happened to you, Emily?" he whispered to himself. The next week, an unexpected chance came. Their professor assigned a group project and paired Daniel with Emily. Daniel tried not to show his excitement. This was the perfect chance to spend more time with her. They met at the library to plan the project. At first, it was all about work: who would do research, who would write the notes. But as the hours passed, Daniel noticed Emily relax a little. When she explained something from a book, her voice grew stronger, more confident. For a moment, Daniel could almost see the girl from the old photo. "You're really smart," Daniel said. Emily looked away quickly. "People don't usually think that." "Well, then people are wrong," he replied without hesitation. For a second, she froze, like those words surprised her. Then she whispered, "Thanks." As they left the library that evening, Daniel noticed Emily checking her phone nervously. Her face grew pale. "Everything okay?" he asked. Emily quickly locked the screen. "Yeah. Just, nothing." But Daniel had seen it. For a brief moment, he caught a glimpse of her screen. There had been a message. And the words on it looked harsh, almost like a threat. Later that night, Daniel couldn't sleep. Something was going on, something Emily was hiding. He couldn't shake the feeling that her fear was bigger than just a rumor. So, against his better judgment, he went back online and searched again. This time, he typed her old last name, the one he saw under the photo. Instantly, more results appeared. Old forums, gossip pages, screenshots. His eyes widened as he scrolled. People claimed Emily had betrayed her best friend. Others said she had spread lies that ruined someone's life. Some posts even accused her of being dangerous. Daniel's head spun. Was any of this true? Or was it all lies? He thought about the girl he had seen crying in the library, the girl who laughed softly at his joke, the girl who looked terrified every time her phone buzzed. His heart told him she wasn't what the internet said. But his mind whispered, "What if you're wrong?" The next day at school, Daniel walked into class and found Emily already there, sitting quietly, as always. He took a deep breath and sat beside her. "Emily," he said softly, "can I ask you something?" She looked at him, her eyes wary. "What? Why do people talk about you? Why do they look at you like that?" Her face went pale. She gripped her pen tightly, as if deciding whether to run or stay. Finally, she whispered, "Because of something that happened. Something I can't escape." Daniel leaned closer. "But what?" "I don't believe the things people say about you. I just want to know the truth." Emily stared at him for a long moment. Then, with a shaky breath, she said, "If I tell you, you'll hate me too." And before Daniel could answer, she stood up and walked out of the room. Daniel sat frozen, her words echoing in his head. "If I tell you, you'll hate me too." What was she hiding? What had happened in her past that made her so afraid? The questions burned inside him. And now, more than ever, he knew he had to find out. The days after Emily's words felt heavy for Daniel. "If I tell you, you'll hate me too." Those words didn't leave his mind. He replayed them again and again, wondering what truth Emily carried that made her so afraid. But no matter how much he thought, Daniel couldn't believe she was a bad person. The way she avoided people, the way she cried in silence, none of it matched the cruel comments he had read online. He decided to give her space, hoping she would trust him when the time was right. One evening, Daniel stayed late at the library to finish some work. As he packed his things, he noticed Emily sitting at a table near the corner. She was alone, her head resting on her arms. Daniel hesitated. Should he go? Or should he leave her alone? After a long pause, he walked over quietly. "Emily," he said softly. She looked up. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Why not?" Because if people see you with me, they'll hate you too. Daniel shook his head. I don't care what people think. I just want to understand. Emily stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed deeply. Fine. You want the truth? I'll tell you. They moved to a quieter corner. Emily's hands trembled as she spoke. 3 years ago, I lived in Michigan. I had a best friend named Sophie. We were close like sisters. We did everything together. People liked us. We had a good life. Her voice cracked. But then, something happened. A rumor started. Someone said Sophie cheated on her boyfriend, and they claimed I was the one who spread the story. Daniel frowned. Did you? Emily shook her head quickly. No. I would never do that. But people believed it. Sophie's boyfriend broke up with her, her friends turned on her, and she blamed me. She told everyone I was jealous, that I wanted to ruin her life. And the worst part? The internet picked it up. Posts, comments, screenshots, half of them fake. Her hands clenched into fists. I tried to explain, but no one listened. Overnight, I became the villain. People called me names online. They said I was a liar, a snake, even dangerous. My parents tried to protect me, but the pressure was too much. So, we moved. We changed schools. I even stopped using my real last name. Daniel sat in silence, shocked. The story sounded unreal, like something out of a movie. But, you didn't do it, he said. Emily shook her head again. No. But once the internet decides something, it doesn't matter what's true. People love drama. They wanted a villain, and I was the easy target. Her eyes filled with tears. That's why I stay quiet now. That's why I hide. Because the moment someone finds out who I really am, the hate comes back. Daniel leaned forward. Emily. I don't believe you're a bad person. I've seen you. You're kind. You're smart. You don't deserve any of this. For the first time, Emily's lips curved into a real, fragile smile. You're the first person who ever said that to me. But before Daniel could say more, Emily's phone buzzed on the table. She picked it up and her face went pale. What is it? Daniel asked quickly. Emily showed him the screen. It was a new post online. Her old photo, her real name, and dozens of comments flooding in again. They found me, she whispered, her voice shaking. Someone found me again. Daniel felt his chest tighten. Who posted it? Emily shook her head, her hands trembling. I don't know. But once it starts, it spreads. It always spreads. The next day at school, Daniel noticed students whispering more than usual. Their eyes shifted toward Emily, filled with curiosity and judgment. Emily walked with her head down, moving quickly, like she was trying to disappear. At lunch, Daniel sat beside her, ignoring the stares. Don't let them scare you, he said firmly. Emily gave him a hopeless look. You don't understand. This is how it starts. First whispers, then gossip, then the hate. It's happening again. Daniel clenched his fists. He hated seeing her like this. He hated that people could destroy someone's life with just a few lies. Then we fight back, he said. Emily shook her head. No. You can't. You'll get her too. I don't care, Daniel replied. I believe you. And I won't let you go through this alone. That evening, Daniel opened his laptop again. He went back to the old posts, the old comments. He dug deeper, clicking links, searching usernames. And then, something caught his eye. A name. Sophie. She wasn't just in the old posts. She was also in the new ones. The same username that had spread the first rumor years ago was active again, commenting under Emily's photo. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "So it was you all along," he whispered. The truth was starting to come out. But Daniel knew this was only the beginning. If Sophie was behind everything, then Emily's nightmare wasn't over. It was only getting started. Daniel could not believe what he had just discovered. Sophie, the same best friend Emily once trusted, was behind everything. She was the one who started the old rumor, and now she was the one bringing it back to life. Daniel sat at his desk, staring at Sophie's username glowing on the screen. Every hateful comment, every cruel post, had her name linked to it. Why would she still be doing this after all these years? Daniel clenched his fists. He knew he had to tell Emily. The next morning at school, Emily looked worse than ever. Her eyes were red, her shoulders slouched, and she avoided everyone's gaze. Students whispered more loudly now. Some even laughed when she walked by. Daniel sat beside her in class and leaned closer. "Emily. I think I know who's behind this." Emily looked at him, confused and tired. "What do you mean?" "It's Sophie," Daniel whispered. "She's the one posting about you. The same way she did before." Emily froze. Her breath caught in her throat. "No, she wouldn't," her voice cracked. "She was my best friend." Daniel shook his head. "Not anymore. She ruined your life once, and now she's trying to do it again." Tears filled Emily's eyes. She turned away, whispering, "Why? Why is she still doing this to me?" By the afternoon, things got worse. Someone printed Emily's old photo and taped it on the classroom wall with the words, "Liar." Emily ripped it down quickly, but everyone had already seen it. Laughter echoed in the hallways. Daniel's blood boiled. He wanted to shout at them, to tell them the truth, but Emily grabbed his arm. "Don't," she whispered. "It will only make things worse." Her voice was broken. Daniel had never seen someone look so defeated. That night, Daniel made a decision. If Emily couldn't fight for herself, he would fight for her. He stayed up late, collecting screenshots of Sophie's posts, saving links, tracing usernames. The more he searched, the clearer it became: Sophie had created multiple fake accounts just to spread lies about Emily. Daniel even found private messages where Sophie pretended to be other people, fueling the rumor again and again. By 3 a.m., Daniel had a folder full of proof. The next day, Daniel showed Emily everything. She stared at the laptop screen, her hands shaking. "I don't understand, why is she doing this? What did I ever do to her?" Daniel looked at her gently. "She's jealous. Maybe she couldn't stand how people liked you. Maybe she wanted to destroy you so she could shine." Emily's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they weren't just from sadness, they were from anger. "She ruined my life once," she whispered. "I can't let her do it again." Daniel nodded. "Then we fight back. But we do it the right way. With the truth." Together, they created a plan. They gathered all the screenshots and old posts. They wrote down every date, every username Sophie used. They even saved Emily's old conversations with Sophie, the ones that proved Emily had been innocent all along. For the first time in years, Emily felt a spark of hope. Maybe the internet had destroyed her before, but maybe this time, it could save her. But Sophie wasn't going to stop easily. When she noticed her posts weren't spreading as fast, she sent Emily a direct message. "Stop pretending you're innocent. If you don't leave that school, I'll make sure everyone hates you again. Nobody will ever believe you." Emily's hands shook as she showed the message to Daniel. "She's threatening me," Emily whispered. "She won't stop." Daniel took a deep breath. "Then we show everyone the truth before she has the chance." That weekend, Daniel helped Emily write a long post. Not just a defense, but a full story from the beginning. Emily wrote about how the rumors started, how she lost everything, how she moved, and how she had lived in silence ever since. She included screenshots, dates, and proof that Sophie had been the one spreading lies. Daniel read the draft and nodded. It's perfect. Honest. Strong. This is your truth. Emily hesitated. What if nobody believes me? They will, Daniel said firmly. Because this time, you're not alone. That night, Emily posted the story online. Within minutes, the comments started. Some people were shocked. Others apologized for believing the lies years ago. Slowly, the truth spread. The next morning, the story had gone viral. News outlets picked it up. Hashtags trend. People everywhere were talking about Emily, this time not as a villain, but as a survivor of online bullying. At school, things changed fast. Students who once laughed at her now looked guilty. Some even came up to her and said sorry. But Sophie was furious. She cornered Emily in the hallway, her eyes burning with rage. How dare you? Sophie hissed. You think people will believe your stupid story? You're still a liar. Emily's hands shook, but before she could speak, Daniel stepped in front of her. Everyone knows the truth now, he said firmly. It's over, Sophie. Sophie's face turned red. She stormed away, but the damage was done. The world had finally seen who she really was. That night, Emily sat beside Daniel at the library, tears rolling down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't tears of fear, they were tears of relief. For the first time in years, she whispered, I feel like I can breathe. Daniel smiled. The internet destroyed you once. But now, it gave you back your voice. Emily leaned her head against his shoulder, whispering, thank you for believing in me. And for Daniel, that moment meant more than anything. The days after Emily's story went online were unlike anything she had experienced before. For years, she had lived in silence, hiding her past, fearing every whisper. But now, the whispers were different. People weren't calling her a liar anymore. They were calling her brave. Comments poured in from strangers all over the country. I believe you. You're strong. I went through something similar, thank you for speaking up. For Emily, it was overwhelming. She never thought people would care about her side of the story. But they did. And slowly, the heavy weight she carried began to lift. At school, the atmosphere shifted. The students who once laughed now avoided her, embarrassed by their behavior. Some even apologized. I'm sorry, one girl said softly, I shouldn't have believed those rumors. Emily gave a small nod. She didn't forget how they had treated her, but she didn't want to hold on to anger either. Daniel noticed the change too. Every time Emily walked through the halls, her steps were steadier, her shoulders straighter. She wasn't hiding anymore. But Sophie wasn't ready to give up. When the truth spread online, she tried to defend herself, claiming Emily was lying again. She posted angry comments, saying the screenshots were fake. But the internet didn't believe her this time. People compared dates, usernames, and messages. Everything pointed back to Sophie. Soon, the spotlight shifted. The same people who once hated Emily now turned on Sophie. She received the backlash of her own lies. At school, Sophie's popularity crumbled. The friends who once stood with her now stayed away. Teachers called her parents. Rumors about her filled the hallways. For the first time, Sophie was the one who felt what Emily had endured. One afternoon, Sophie confronted Emily again. Her voice was sharp, but her eyes looked desperate. Why couldn't you just stay quiet? Sophie snapped. Why did you have to ruin me? Emily looked at her calmly. For years, she had dreamed of this moment, the chance to defend herself. But now that it was here, She didn't feel angry. She just felt tired. "You ruined yourself," Emily said softly. "I just told the truth." Sophie's face twisted with frustration, but she had no reply. She turned and walked away, her steps unsteady. For Emily, it wasn't victory she felt. It was freedom. That evening, Emily and Daniel sat together at the park. The sun was setting, painting the sky in orange and pink. Emily's voice was quiet but steady. "I thought I would never escape my past. I thought I'd always be the girl everyone hated." Daniel shook his head. "You're not that girl anymore. You're stronger than all of them. You faced the truth, and you won." Emily looked at him, her eyes shining with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." Daniel smiled. "You didn't need me to save you, Emily. You just needed someone to remind you that you're not alone." For the first time in years, Emily let herself smile, a real smile, the kind Daniel had only seen in that old photo. Weeks passed, and Emily's life slowly returned to normal, but in a better way. She made new friends who accepted her for who she really was. She joined group projects without fear. She even began sharing pictures online again, small moments of her life she no longer felt the need to hide. Her story became more than just a fight against lies, it became a symbol. People online shared her journey as an example of how rumors and bullying could destroy lives, but also how the truth could rebuild them. Emily finally had her voice back. On a quiet Saturday night, Emily and Daniel sat in the library, the same place where Daniel had first seen her crying months ago. This time, her eyes weren't filled with fear. They were filled with hope. "You know," Emily said with a small laugh, "the internet almost destroyed me." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Almost?" Emily smiled. "Yeah. Because in the end, it also gave me you." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He looked at her, and for a moment, the world outside didn't exist. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. As they sat together, the library lights glowing softly around them, Emily felt something she thought she would never feel again: peace. Her past was no longer a chain holding her down. The truth had set her free. And as for Daniel, he knew he hadn't just uncovered a mystery. He had found something far greater, someone worth fighting for. In the end, the story wasn't just about lies, or rumors, or the cruelty of the internet. It was about love, trust, and the courage to speak the truth even when the world doesn't believe you. And for Emily, the girl who once lived in silence, the truth had finally won.